2 words will completely and totally set you free and change the world. The 2 words are against me. Against me. What am I talking about? We always say, do you support the use of violence? In an abstract realm, taxation and regulation and this and that, the war on drugs and public schools, do you support the use of violence? In the abstract, in some political realm, in a civilized dinner party debate scenario. Do you support the use of violence? Gets you nowhere, right? Doesn't change anyone's goddamn mind. You have debates, there's a certain amount of tension, you withdraw, someone else withdraws, next time you get together it's like nothing was said. Because you haven't added those 2 words which will set the world free. Against me. You understand the difference between, do you support the use of violence in the abstract? Versus, do you support the use of violence against me? It's quite different, isn't it? Emotionally and psychologically, it is a bomb. It's a complete bomb. So, what does this look like in practice? So someone is saying, well, I think we should stay in Iraq. Right? Oh, you should say, and most libertarians will say, I don't think we should stay in Iraq, and here's why. It's a war of aggression, it's the initiation of the use of force, and it violates this, and it violates that, and we should change this, and we should change that. Or the Ron Paul people will say it's because the magic Congress pixies didn't bless it with their dust, with their fairy dust, and that's why it's immoral. But that doesn't have anything to do with the real facts of the argument. The real source of the war in Iraq is not aggression against others. It's aggression against you and me. The real source of the war in Iraq. And people say, oh, you're Canadian. Well, we're in Afghanistan and we've got people in Iraq. The real source of the war in Iraq is aggression against you. When people say, I support the war in Iraq, what they're saying is, you, my friend, should be shot if you don't support the war in Iraq. I had this debate with a woman, actually, and she was saying, I support staying in Iraq. I said, well, I think that you should not be shot for wanting to support the war in Iraq. And she says, well, of course I shouldn't be shot. And I said, do you think that I should be shot for not supporting the war in Iraq? And she says, well, no, of course you should not be shot for not supporting the war in Iraq. And it's like, okay, then I should not have to pay taxes. Right? If you can't personalize it, you're chickening out. And I say this as an inveterate chicken outer for 2 decades. Somebody says, I think that we should have farm subsidies. What will most libertarians do? Oh, the farm subsidies are unproductive, they're economically inefficient, you get these lakes of wine and mountains of butter, and people grow stuff just to get rid of it, and then it gets dumped on the third world, which makes those governments more corrupt, and the farmers there don't have any place to sell their goods, and you end up, right? That's all nonsense. That's all nonsense, fundamentally. Yes, it's all true, but it doesn't connect with anybody emotionally. You don't put any cards on the table. You're just playing an intellectual game called Look How Much I've Read. The question, the statement, I support farm subsidies, can be countered in about 10 seconds. 5 seconds, really. Do you support me being shot if I don't support them? Forget the statistics. Forget them. Forget them. Never going to change anyone's mind. Libertarians have been lobbing statistics at people for hundreds of years. It does sweet F all. Does nothing whatsoever. Doesn't change anybody's mind. It's just an abstract debate. It's like 3-dimensional chess. It's like crossword puzzle with statistics instead of clues. Doesn't achieve anything. does not achieve anything. And I'm not just making that up, because we haven't achieved anything. We've achieved the opposite of what we want. The opposite of what we want. Somebody says, I support farm subsidies. You simply say to them, do you support me getting shot if I don't support them? I think we need socialized medicine. Will you support me getting shot if I don't agree? Or thrown into an ass-raping, gang-bang, hellish prison hole? Do you support torture or violence against me if I disagree with you? We need old age security. Will you shoot me if I disagree? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. Will you support me getting shot if I disagree? Do you advocate the use of violence against me if I disagree with you? If every libertarian in the world did this, we would be free very quickly. And that's how to put some skin in the game, my friends. To look people in the eye. And you say to them, do you support me getting shot if I disagree with you? Do you support the initiation of the use of force against me? Against me, those two magic words, not in the abstract about farmers and foreigners and foreign aid and the history of Africa and the gold standard and the bimetallic currency and the fiat this and the Fed that and the causes of the Great Depression. Screw all of that. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. What works is against me. Are you willing to look me in the eye and say, Steph, you should be shot? Because that's what we're talking about. Forget all the abstracts and the statistics, and it comes down to a very simple question. Should I be shot? Are you going to cheer when they drag me away and throw me in a pit of anal rape? Do you support the use of violence against me? Not others. Not over there or that side of the street. But me, as a human being, sitting right in front of you, across the dinner table, across the bar. Do you support me being shot? That's all it comes down to. That is integrity, courage, and certainty. Now, the certainty comes with the effects of that conversation. This is where libertarians fall down, go boom. If we truly believe that the initiation of the use of violence is the core evil in the world, and it is. If you don't believe me, read my book. If we believe that the initiation of the use of force is the core evil in the world, and if we understand that the state is an effect of the moral beliefs of society, then those who advocate justifications or who justify the use of force are creating a world that enslaves us, actively and purposefully. So, what are you going to do with those people in your life? What are you going to do with the people in your life who want you shot? It's nothing you don't know the answer to. It's nothing you don't know the answer to. If a woman is against spousal abuse and she marries a guy who beats her up, we get that there's a strange psychological phenomenon going on, right? That there's a weird kind of twisted cowardice and recreation and projection. It's like the gay ministers who rail against homosexual marriage. We just get that there's a really twisted psychological mess that's going on that doesn't have anything to do with ethics. So, if you genuinely believe, if you are certain that the initiation of the use of force is immoral, And that those in your life, not in the news, those in your life who advocate and praise you getting shot, what are you going to do with those people? If you're certain, what are you going to do with those people? You know the answer. It's nothing I need to tell you. You don't keep people, and it's amazing to even have to say this. But let me say it. So there's no misunderstanding. It's nothing you don't know. You don't keep people in your life who want you shot. You don't hang with people who want you shot. You don't go to dinner parties with people who want you shot. Do you understand? What about you means, what against me in terms of violence really means. You don't go to Thanksgiving dinner with people who want you thrown in jail. You don't go on little shopping excursions with a mother who wants you shot. If you do, and you can do whatever you want, but just now so you understand with real clarity, that if you sit down with somebody, look them in the eye and say, you support the use of violence against me? And that person says, yep. And then you say, great, let's go play some air hockey, right? Then you're a coward. And I say this, having been a coward in this way for many years. You have to look in the mirror and say, I'm a coward. It's a game to me. I'm discrediting ethics and philosophy by putting forward moral propositions, good and evil, and then just continuing to hang with the homies who violate every principle that I hold as moral, who advocate the use of violence, not in the abstract, but against you. If a wife claims to say that spousal abuse is the most virulent and evil thing in the world, and you should never be with anybody who abuses you, and then continues to stay married to a man who is abusive, we have the right to say to her, give up your marriage or give up your values. Because right now, you're completely living in a hypocritical manner. It's vile. It's vile. It's vile. It's cowardly. It has no integrity. And it discredits everything that real philosophers are trying to achieve in this world. You either have to give up your values as a libertarian, or you have to give up the people who want you shot. If you're a Jew, right, you can't say, I'm a good Jew, and hang with a bunch of Nazis who want you shot. You can say it, but it's ridiculous. It's cowardly, it's hypocritical, there's some big psychological mess that's going on there. It's got nothing to do with either Judaism or Nazism, but with self-abasement and cowardice. That's how you can be free by this time tomorrow. You call up the people you know and you say, I've got a question to ask you. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, and you know something about my beliefs, and I don't mean to put you I'll put you on the spot, but you kind of got a gun against my temple, so I just wanted to talk about that. I know we've talked a lot about all the abstract things in the universe, but I want to ask you a question directly, and it's better to talk to people face to face. It's harder to point a gun at somebody face to face, even in an abstract manner. But talk to them face to face. Go sit down with them in a coffee shop and say, so, I just want to understand the basis of our relationship. So, you claim to have some affection for me, some love for me, some respect for me, or whatever. You assume there's something positive in the relationship, and you say to them, sitting across from them, you say, excuse me, you say, do you support the use of violence against me? And they'll, of course, oh, no, of course not. It's like, oh, okay, so then we're on the same ground. So, you don't support the use of violence just against me, or do you support the use of violence against everyone except me? It was like, no, I don't support the use of violence against anyone. It's like, well, then you must be an anarchist, or an anarcho-capitalist, or voluntarist, or whatever the hell. You must be a philosopher. You must be basically decent. And they say, well, no, I don't, I still believe in the state, I still believe in taxation, I still believe in government, I still believe in Ron Paul. Okay, well, then you do support the use of violence against me. And they will do whatever they can to disconnect these two things, theory and practice. So they can get all the emotional comforts of conformity with the theory with none of the emotional discomforts of actually advocating somebody getting shot, which people are relatively uncomfortable with. But don't let them have their cake and eat it too. That's not because you're mean, it's just reality. If you support me getting shot, at least have the courage, the balls, to look me in the eye and say, Steph, I support you getting shot. And then I can get you the fuck out of my life. Because how can I have even a shred of self-esteem, a shred of pride in my own existence, if I'm willing to hang out with people who want me shot? I mean, that's sick. That is self-abasement, self-groveling, self-denigration of the most revolting kind. Well, I know that you want me shot, but, hey, could I maybe get a little more meatloaf? And if we're not willing to do that, like if we're not willing to put our personal relationships to the test, if we're not willing to do that, that's fine. Nobody has to do anything. But don't imagine you have anything to do with libertarianism. And don't imagine that you have anything to do with virtue. That you're using these ideas to play the clever card, to play the cool card, to play the alternative card, to play the I'm smarter and know more than you, and I'm out of the matrix and you're in the matrix, and we play all this nonsense. Don't try and use philosophy. Don't try and use ethics for your own personal comfort and to feel superior and avoid the anxiety of asking people that basic central question, which you yourself bring up. You yourself bring this question up about taxation as violence, as the initiation of the use of force. You bring it up. Other people don't bring this to the conversation. You bring it to the conversation. So do it. Bring it to the conversation. That's freedom. I mean, you have no control over the state. You can run around after the fantasy kite of Ron Paul and imagine you can fly. It's not going to do a goddamn thing for you. The state is a concept, and until we act with courage in that concept, against that concept, revealing the violence of that concept, not from the police, from the abstract, from the people who want the gun pointed at you. And if you're not willing to get people who advocate the use of violence against you out of your life, then for pity's sake, don't sit there and ask farmers to give up their subsidies. If you're not willing to give up your, quote, friends who want you thrown in jail, for the sake of all that's rational and good in this world, don't pretend to ask other people to give up anything. If you're not willing to give up corrupt and false personal relationships with people who want you dead, then don't ask anybody else to give up anything, because you'll look like an idiot. You look like a hypocritical fool. I'm not saying you are, because maybe this is new to you. I mean, you know it deep down, but maybe I'm just saying that now that you know, don't sit there and say to people, yes, well, you know, this group needs to give up welfare, and this group needs to give up the military-industrial complex, and this group needs to give up their subsidies, and all the lobbyists in Washington need to find real jobs, and look how strong I am at telling everybody else what they need to sacrifice and give up for the sake of virtue and truth. When you're not willing to withdraw from even one friendship or one relationship in your life with people who want you dead, you're daring to talk of the sacrifice of other people and what they need to give up? Please. You have no control over the level of taxation you face. None. But I would rather have great friendships and a blissfully happy marriage and 50% taxation than no taxation and have to hang with people who want me dead and call it love Love, really? Love? That's love? I want you shot? Fits in any sane definition of love, respect, admiration, virtue, courage, integrity, certainty? Really? I want you dead fits where in your definition of productive relationships? Real freedom, again, short of being thrown in a gulag, which we have no control over anyway, real freedom is having integrity, courage, and certainty in your personal relationships. Not hanging with people who want you dead is real freedom. Getting out of corrupt and exploitive and destructive and self-abasing personal relationships based on values that you aspire. I'm not making these things up for you. These are values that you aspire to, that you say are virtuous. To actually live by them in your personal life, to create a voluntarist society, a free society called you and your circle of friends and your circle of lovers and your circle of people. That's how we create a stateless society, is by acting on the principle of no unchosen positive obligations, of not saying, well, I was born into this family and I was born into this social circle, so I guess I'm going to have to hang with them even if they want me dead. Do you see why I said you weren't going to like me when I told you that you can be free by this time tomorrow? He would say, no, I'm going to go and donate another $20 to Ron Paul because that's how I'm going to become free. No. That's not how you're going to become free. That's how you're going to avoid what you really need to do to become free, which is to ask people around you if they support you being shot. So go and do it. Thanks for watching.